Bats come out at night, and nighttime was scary time. So if bats are the best and baddest part of your Halloween, you might just credit ancient people like the Celts. And they weren't the only ancient culture with creepy traditions. Others also looked to their dead.
Many cultures sort of set aside a day or a couple of days to ritually celebrate and recognize the dead. An interesting thing is that you find a lot of them about the same time period, especially in agricultural societies. Because if you think about it, spring things come up out of the ground, they're very green, you harvest in the middle of the summer, and towards the fall, and when it gets towards winter, things die.
But how did these ancient traditions survive into our modern era? In Western culture, they were preserved by, of all people, Christians. In a bizarre twist of history, as Christianity spread, it adopted and reimagined pagan folkways rather than try to stamp them out. This made it easier to convert pagans. A key pagan festival destined to get a Christian makeover was Lemuria, when celebrants placated the dead, culminating on May 13th.
Of all the different days that they have in the Roman calendar to celebrate the dead, it was the spookiest. So on the Lemuria, what are called the larvae, the ghosts of the departed, would come up and haunt people.
To quell the dead, pagan Romans poured milk onto their graves or offered them little cakes. But the church co-opted Lemuria in 609 AD, turning May 13th into All Saints' Day, a day to honor the most holy of dead Christians.
Setting aside this day was an attempt to Christianize this very pagan festival, and yet at the same time what it did was it kept a lot of the same themes going.
The Christianized version of Lemuria was such a success that church leaders made a decision that eventually gave rise to Halloween. They moved All Saints, or Hallows Day, to November 1st to drain the life out of pagan Samhain. Because Samhain fell on the night of October 31st, before All Hallows Day on November 1st, people started calling Samhain All Hallows Evening, the evening before All Hallows Day. This shortened into All Hallows Even, and finally into Halloween. And then, to be safe, the church went one step further, adding a holiday to honor not just saints, but everyday Christians. November 2nd became All Souls Day, a church-sanctioned holiday to honor the departed.
This is real important for Halloween because this is where Halloween gets its association with dead souls, death, and the supernatural again.
So thank the church for inspiring the creepy essentials of Halloween. But wait, there's more. The church also helped establish the tradition of trick-or-treating, sort of. It all started during the Middle Ages on All Souls Day, when priests told Christians to pray for souls trapped between heaven and hell in a netherworld they called purgatory.
Purgatory was not a pleasant place. It's not hell. It's not as bad as hell is, but it's still probably pretty fiery. Souls are kind of suffering there. Luckily, there is something that you could do. You could offer up prayers for them.
How did souls get out of purgatory? According to the church, if enough prayers were offered, a soul would fly up into heaven. This led to a medieval custom that bears more than a striking resemblance to our modern trick-or-treat. Children would go souling, begging for soul cakes, spiced cakes filled with raisins. In return for these treats, the beggars would offer up prayers for souls trapped in purgatory. While this forerunner to trick-or-treat became a preoccupation for medieval Christians, so did another future essential of Halloween: witches.
It made perfect sense for people in medieval times to believe that there were demons and witches. And if there were demons and witches and they were responsible for bad things in the world, it made sense that you hunt them down and you kill them. That was their worldview.
A witch panic in the 16th century helped establish the look of the character that, for many, epitomizes Halloween. Almost always women, witches were seen as in league with Satan.
They were probably the healers who had cures and folklore and passed down orally through generations. And at some point, that becomes very suspicious for whatever reason to the religious people around them. And a lot of the symbols that were associated with these women, who probably often lived alone, may have been somewhat eccentric, of course, end up becoming associated with witches.
Over time, as more and more women were accused of witchcraft, their practical kitchen tools acquired sinister dimensions and became model Halloween icons. Even something as mundane as a broom became an instrument of evil, as well as handy transportation. Another accessory in every witch's lair was perfect for brewing devilish potions: the cauldron.
Cauldrons become very popular. Again, it was something that every household had in medieval ages. It was your basic cooking implement.
The pointed witch's hat was a variation on a medieval countrywoman's hat. And of course, the mysterious lurking killer with the glowing eyes, the cat.
Ronald Clark O'Brien, better known as the Candyman or the man who ruined Halloween, was convicted of killing his 8-year-old son Timothy on Halloween 1974 with potassium cyanide-laced pixie sticks in order to claim life insurance money. On October 31st, 1974, O'Brien and a neighbor took their 4 children trick-or-treating in Pasadena, Texas. After visiting a home where the occupant failed to answer the door, the children grew impatient and ran ahead to the next home while O'Brien stayed behind. He eventually caught up with the group and produced 5 pixie sticks. At the end of the evening, O'Brien gave 2 of the sticks to his neighbor's 2 children and 1 to each of his own children. Upon returning home, O'Brien gave the 5th piece of candy to a 10-year-old boy whom he recognized from his church. Before bed, Timothy O'Brien asked to eat some of the candy he collected. Choosing the pixie sticks, Timothy was unable to get the powdered candy out of the straw, so Ronald O'Brien helped him loosen the powder. After tasting the candy, Timothy complained that it tasted bitter, so O'Brien gave him some Kool-Aid to wash away the taste. Timothy immediately began to complain that his stomach hurt and ran to the bathroom where he began vomiting and convulsing. O'Brien later claimed he held Timothy while he was vomiting and the child went limp in his arms. Timothy died en route to the hospital less than an hour after consuming the candy. Police did not initially suspect O'Brien of any wrongdoing until Timothy's autopsy revealed that the pixie stick he consumed was laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide.
Halloween is supposed to be fun, but trick-or-treat turned into a real-life nightmare for 2 families last night.
Yeah, 2 reports of foreign objects inside Halloween candy in the area last night. One case in Columbus, the other near Mooresville. RTV6 reporter Drew Smith joins us now live with the details. Drew.
Jenna, imagine taking your kids out trick-or-treating in a nice neighborhood, like this neighborhood on the city's north side, and then you find out that somebody put a sharp metal object inside a piece of Halloween candy. 2 area moms say that's exactly what happened to them.
A big sewing needle. It was a pretty good-sized sewing needle.
Andrea Clampett says she found the needle around noon today in a candy bar just like this one.
Down here, I felt something sharp when I picked it up, and then once I felt that, I yelled for my husband. He came and checked it out, and he opened it up, and he broke the candy bar in half, and then there was a needle sticking outside that candy bar.
She says she threw the candy bar away and then took the needle and wrapper to the Madison Township Fire Station.
I've been in the fire service for a little over 20 years. Going on 23 now, and it's the first time where I've had first-hand experience. It's just chilling.
Clampett says her kids went trick-or-treating in the upscale Heartland Crossing neighborhood last night. Morgan County Sheriff Bob Downey says his office is investigating. Pretty scary stuff.
Yes, it is. I mean, every kid on this road goes over there. I mean, it could have been anybody's kid, and it's not right.
A mom in Columbus says she and her 5-year-old went trick-or-treating in this part of town last night before their terrifying discovery.
Why her child was actually eating a Tootsie Roll, orange-flavored Tootsie Roll, that he bit upon a metal object.
And here's a picture of that metal object that Columbus police are investigating. If you have information, they're asking you to call 812-376-2600.
We're fortunate that at this point that the child was not injured.
We're not going next year. We're going to have a little Halloween party here.
So police say it's always very important to closely inspect all your kids' Halloween candy. If it doesn't look just right, just throw it away. Reporting live on the city's north side, Drew Smith, RTV6. Back to you, Jenna.
Simple but important advice, Drew Smith. Thank you.
Nightmare for a Poughkeepsie mother. Joanne Turner posting this picture on Facebook showing a pink pill inside her daughter's Halloween candy. She's warning all parents who took their kids trick-or-treating at the Galleria Mall to check their candy. And it's not just in New York. Police in Pennsylvania say someone's putting needles inside candy. TV 1055's Rahel Solomon has more on the dangers.
We all checked our Twix and our Skittles and our sneakers, but we didn't find any in the sneakers. We only found them in the Twix.
For little Miguel Luna, the day after Halloween this year was spent at the Kennett Square Police Department. Instead of eating his candy, he's trying to help police understand why his Twix reportedly had a needle in it.
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing.
How can anybody do anything like that? That's just unbelievable.
Police say around midnight they received a report of sewing-like needles in 5 Twix bars, apparently from Miguel and some of his other friends. Miguel says he first saw a post on Facebook about a needle in a Snickers bar, so he and his friends, all ages 7 to 12, checked theirs and made the apparent discovery.
There were 4 kids involved. They're not all related, 2 separate families, but they all went trick-or-treating together in the Stenion Hills area.
Police tell Eyewitness News they investigate all complaints as legitimate until proven otherwise, but the report was enough to prompt police to send out alerts early Sunday morning warning neighbors.
They just said that you should check the candy again.
By Sunday afternoon, another child came forward to report he found a needle in his Snickers bar. Police say they do not think that 12-year-old went trick-or-treating with Miguel and the others.
What did you think when you saw that?
We were all nervous when we called the police because we didn't know what was gonna happen. Then we all came to the house. Everybody checked their candy.
And tonight, that's the message police are stressing to parents. Check your child's candy and maybe check it again.
And police say while they don't think the 2 groups went trick-or-treating together, they're looking into whether they know one another. They also say luckily none of this candy was ingested, so no one was hurt. But they say if this was legitimate, the person responsible likely faces at least reckless endangerment charges. Reporting in Kennett Square, Rahel Solomon, TV 1055.
She was with one arm up like this, about 4 feet off the ground, hanging from the fence.
Neighbors thought it was all a Halloween prank on construction workers who had been working at the site.
That's when I heard them over there at the construction guys yelling and this and that, and they had taken her down, and that's when it was basically blam, it's not a dummy, it's real.
And now the people living on this street are worried for their own children.
Please help, do something. I mean, we got kids out here that play. That 7-year-old seen that this morning. No kid should have to see that. None. And now we have to pretend it was something else.
Police say they found an Ohio ID card about 200 yards from the body, but have not been able to make a positive identification.